You're watching Mind Your Own Business with Jonathan Dawson.
Hello, yet one more episode of Mind Your Own Business with your host, Jonathan Dawson, here at CBT News. We have been talking about, for the last two episodes, this is number 3, this is the third of the series, the final one, where we're recapping a live event I had at my training center here in Atlanta, right down the road from CBT's headquarters at the Pinnacle Training Center. There we had a leadership mastery workshop with, again, sales managers, GSMs, GMs, dealers, where we talked about strategies and principles to help grow their store. As a brief recap, for those of you who are catching this on the sequence and you're now in part 3, those who aren't, here's what you've missed so far you might want to catch on the replay. We talked about principle number 1, which is start with the end in mind and making sure that you have clarity of vision of whatever you're doing when you're trying to change people or processes. We then went from start with the end in mind to hiring on purpose and talking about the idea and the importance of having a road to the hire. From there, we went to another idea, which was how do we make sure that we are sensitive to the fact that we're always working with weirdos? Everyone we work with is some form of a weirdo, which means they're all wired different than me. So the strategies for individual motivation and coaching and how do I get more out of each individual person? From that, we moved to the VOX principle, which was centered around a theme of clarity is kindness. And how do we make sure we're constantly holding people accountable to the expectations they have? From that, we went to rigid flexibility, the idea that the only thing worse than treating people unequally is treating people as equals when they're not equals, that there should be earned exceptions within any team to build an exceptional team made up of exceptional people. And here we are now on episode number 3. And we're going to talk today is we're going to start with a concept called Mission 22. Some of you are familiar with that, but I want to stress the importance of it. It's one of the big themes that came out of the Leadership Mastery event. Then we're going to talk about how to step on people's goggles, and we're going to close with a statement, I am Seephus. So we'll get into some history there, some legends and lore. Let's get started though. Mission 22. For those who are not familiar, this will be a very brief summary of it, but many of you are somewhat familiar with Mission 22. What does that mean? Mission 22 comes from a burden, a place of conviction that I have that I would like to give you. I would like to give you my burden. I'd like to transfer my conviction to you, and here's my conviction. I believe, specifically on the variable side, I believe that every salesperson deserves the dignity of a deal a day. Mission 22 is essentially that if you're scheduled for 22 work days, Mission 22 is that you should produce, on average, 22 sales, a minimum of 1 sale per day that you're at the dealership. Now, this as a theory sounds amazing, doesn't it? My goodness, you'd be sitting there going, well, John, of course, I would love everyone on my team to sell a car a day every day they walk in. But let me ask you a question. Do you have a strategy to make this wonderful wish become a reality? Do you have a blueprint for it? Mission 22 requires 3 component parts, 3 essential parts. Each one of them has subparts, but the 3 essential pieces of Mission 22 are these. You have to start with a belief system. Do you fundamentally believe that your people deserve the dignity of a deal a day? That if they're there for 8, 9, or 10 hours a day, that they should be productive in their role to produce the outcome of a sale a day. Do you believe that? Do you really believe that? Because if you do, that's the first part is belief. Do we believe that our people deserve it? Do we believe that our people should do it? Not only do they deserve it in this grand scheme of like euphoric, amazing, wouldn't it be wonderfuls, but we also ask, should they do it? Should they, if they've been there all day, should they sell a car a day? Should they have the lead flow? Should they have the processes? Should they have the customer client maintenance and retention strategies? Should they sell a car a day? That's the other part of the belief. So if I believe that they should from a place of like, it would be great, do I believe they should from a place of accountability, that they actually should do it? And then, do I believe that my team can do it? Do I believe I can get them to that? Do I believe I as a leader have the capacity to lead people to that level of success? So it starts with beliefs. That's the first essential component. What are the beliefs around Mission 22? Then you move from beliefs to blueprint. I need a clear blueprint to get my team to that level. It doesn't happen because it's a great idea or a nice idea or we would all love it if it were true. It happens when you have a blueprint, a clear map, a clear way, an architectural design to make it a reality. Like imagine if you just said, oh, I really want to have this beautiful house. I want this wonderful big house. Yeah, well, that's wonderful up here, but But at some point, if you want it to be real, you're going to need an architect to help you design the floor plan and lay out the rooms. You need someone who knows how to blueprint that sucker. And the reality is most management teams don't have a clue how to blueprint 22 cars per person per month. Never done it, never seen it, don't even know what to do. Well, let me give you some of the essentials of the blueprint. The first thing you have to do is you have to do some basic math at your store. If your store did sell an average of 22 cars per person, you could take your current average month, whatever that normal month is, and simply divide it by 22, and you could simply, based on pure math, go, this is how many cars we sell right now. If everyone was selling 22, then you would do that number divide by 22 and it'd give you a number of people to get you to 22. And you'd go, wow, that means we'd only have this many team members instead of this many team members. And for some of you, it literally means cutting your team in half. That if you're at 20 sales team members right now and you're selling 220 cars with 20 people, that you should be selling 220 with 10. You should be doing that. So how do we do that though? What's the blueprint? Well, one of it is literally just going, well, in order to make that even remotely possible, if we start with the end in mind, which is our first principle, you see how these all stack and integrate within each other? So we go, okay, what's the end in mind? The end in mind is I want to have 22 cars per person. The end in mind is I want to sell, let's say, for example, 220 cars, which is 10 people. Well, I might need to start making sure that I hire on purpose. That might be part of my blueprint. I might need to hire on purpose to make that a reality, which means I got to stop hiring 8-car people if my goal is to have a 22-car average. I got to start making sure I'm hiring higher quality human beings, right? I need to make sure that I've got some clear expectations. I need to figure out, what is the motivation of each of these team members? That I might have somebody on my team that to get them to 22 cars a month, it's not about money, it's about time. Do you realize you probably have someone on your team right now that if you went to them and said, if you average 22 cars a month, you can have your own schedule. Come and go as you please. That there are some people on your team that for that as a bogey would run through a brick wall and get you to 22 cars out of them. That same person won't do it for money though, but they will do it for time. Now, not everybody will, and this will bother you because you want everyone to be wired the same way, but they're all weirdos. Remember, that was principle number 3. So they're all weirdos, so they won't all do it the exact same way. So some people, it's pride and prestige. They want to be number one. They want a billboard in the city that says that they're a top salesperson. Did you know you have somebody on your team that if they average 22 cars a month for 3 months, and you said, if you do that, I will put a billboard up somewhere in town that says, don't have a salesperson to work with, come see one of our top salespeople at this dealership, with their face on a billboard and you're paying for it, they would run through a brick wall and sell you 22 cars a month for 3 months. They would do it for a billboard. They won't do it for money. They won't buy their own billboard, but if you get them a billboard, they'll do it. You see, everybody's wired differently. They're all a bunch of weirdos. And so when you realize that, you go, okay, for me to get to Mission 22, I got to have first the belief. Then I got to have a blueprint. I got to have a blueprint in the expectations around hiring with my management, which means I probably need to put a hiring freeze in place. That's a scary thought. What do you mean hiring freeze? You're not allowed to hire people anymore. Y'all suck at it, all right? Most of y'all watching this, you're terrible at hiring people. You shouldn't be hiring people anymore. You should be growing your existing team and let the culture that you've built get your store to 22 cars per person as an average. You won't have to worry about recruiting anymore. People be banging on your door. How do I work for y'all? You'll have a stack of resumes, right? But the blueprint includes a hiring freeze. The blueprint includes clear incentive structure for hitting 22. The blueprint includes clear accountability for what's expected and when you don't meet it, what the consequences are. That's part of the blueprint. You get to the third piece. What's the third piece? The third piece is behaviors. What are the core and critical behaviors that need to be in place for an individual person to consistently sell 22 cars per month? Obviously, if your team knew exactly what to do to sell 22 cars a month and they already had all the behaviors mapped out, they'd be doing it. The reality is they don't know, and neither do your managers oftentimes. Managers do not know how to grow a team to 22 cars per person. They don't know how to do it or they'd be doing it. Your salespeople don't know how to sell that many cars or they'd be doing it. So you need to know, what are the key behaviors? So at the Leadership Mastery class, we outlined this as a map. We said, here's the blueprint, here's based on this belief, here's the blueprint, here's the behaviors, here's what needs to be in place. And if you want to have a Mission 22 culture and environment, you're going to have to have a blueprint. You're going to have core behaviors. But it all starts with beliefs. The next principle we're going to talk about is step on their goggles. Now, this one's a little bit of a tough one. It comes from a story. I was watching TV one day and I saw an interview with Michael Phelps' head coach. And they were talking about this story where he stepped on Michael's goggles on purpose, broke Michael's goggles before a race. He did it on purpose. I thought that was so fascinating. So I did some Google searching and I found a deeper interview or a deeper explanation where he talked about it. And he was talking about a race years ago before the Olympics that made Phelps super famous, where he was in a meet and he had left his goggles unattended. And his coach, Coach Bowman, said, really, Michael, you have really two pieces of true equipment. I mean, really, you have your Speedo and you have your goggles. And you really shouldn't be racing without them. You shouldn't be swimming without either of those two. When you leave them unattended, you leave your success at risk because you got to protect those two things. Well, Michael, earlier in his life when he was being coached, he had left his goggles unattended. So the coach literally stepped on it, sabotaged his goggles on purpose. And Michael, because of his training, because of how well he was trained, he swam the race with broken goggles, and at the end of the race, he popped out of the water and told his coach these things were worthless the entire time. My eyes were flooded with water. I basically had to swim blind. And what's interesting is later on when that came out, obviously at some point Michael knew what happened. He was sharing in a different interview, and he said, everyone deserves a coach who will step on their goggles. Everyone deserves a coach who will train them how to swim blind because one day they might need it. Well, in the actual Olympics, when he was actually doing one of the major races to get the big medals that he got, his goggles failed again. But because he had already practiced swimming with broken goggles, because he actually had developed the skill to swim blind, he again won the gold medal that year in the Olympics with broken goggles. What is the moral of the story? You have people on your team and you make it way too easy for them to be mediocre. You're not willing to step on their goggles. You're not willing to make them uncomfortable. Most dealerships that are watching this right now, if I said, how often is your team role playing for the skill they need to be able to execute effectively with a customer today? Tell me your role play schedule. You all know the answer, you don't role play. Why? Because the guys don't like it. So they like being mediocre better? They like being average better? You like being a dealership that incrementally sells 5 more cars a month than you did the month before? You've been in business for 15 years and you still have an ad budget where you have to buy strangers to come into work with your people. Why? Because your people don't retain their own customers. They don't have a referral business. You think that's better than role play? No, it's not, my friend. Step on the goggles of your people. Make training hard. Because training is hard is not a reason to stop training. It's a reason to do it more. Because your people don't want to role play is not a reason to not role play. It's a reason to role play more. We want them to be great at what they do so they're great with the customer and they can build a great business. And that's the step on your goggles principle. And the final principle of the conference where we had leaders from all over the place, we talked about this principle called the I am Sisyphus. Some of you are familiar with the mythology of Sisyphus. He was basically punished by having to push a rock up a mountain forever. That was his punishment by the gods. Now you have to push this rock up a mountain. And I shared with the team, congratulations, you, my friend, are Sisyphus. The role of a leader is the role of pushing rocks up mountains forever. When you accepted the role as a manager, when you accept the role as a leader, you accept the role of Sisyphus, a never-ending, never-stopping, rock up a mountain job. It's just always going to be some form of a rock up a mountain. Now, the good news is if you do it right and you do it well, maybe over time you can get more hands on the rock to help you, but there's always going to be a new rock tomorrow. When you wake up, trust me, there's another rock that needs to be pushed up a mountain. And that's the role of a leader. And what I shared with the team there is I said, some of you struggle with your role as leaders and you forget because you lose context, you lose perspective. You sometimes say things like, you say, man, John, it's frustrating because I feel like I want it more for them than they want it for themselves. And I go, yeah, that's exactly right, though. It should be that way. You should want it more for them than they want it for themselves. Can you imagine knowing what's possible for someone and not wanting it more for them than they want it for themselves in that moment. If you're in leadership, the very definition of a leader, the person who is leading others by very nature of that role, should be in front of them. You should be ahead of them. You should be seeing things they don't yet see, taking them to a place they would not naturally go on their own. That's what a great leader does. And so if you're in leadership and you find yourself sometimes frustrated, let me encourage you, my friend, you are Sisyphus. You're pushing a rock. You wake up tomorrow, there's another rock. But it's a glorious role. It's an amazing thing to be in a leadership role where you can change the literal direction of a family's legacy when you have an impact on an individual. There are people who will literally have their great-grandkids' lives will be better because you coached and mentored them. There's somebody on your team that you're going to help have a breakthrough. There's a team member on your team that you're going to hold accountable, and they're going to have a breakthrough in their business that's going to be so transformative for their business, it'll transform their life. You're going to change the financial destiny of a legacy of a family that will have opportunity it would have never had if you were not their leader. And so if you are feeling frustrated, congratulations, welcome to the club. I am Sisyphus and so are you. And if you want to grow your people, these are the principles you have to keep in mind. Now, if you didn't catch all 3 episodes of this recap of our Leadership Mastery Workshop, please watch all 3. If you would like to attend one of our events, please reach out. We'd love to have you. At the Pinnacle Training Center, we have events for salespeople, for service advisors, service managers, for F&I, for sales managers, for GSMs, GMs, BDC lead management. We've got classes for everybody, and we'd love to have you at one of our events at the Pinnacle Training Center. With that, I close with simply this: mind your own business. Focus on the things that'll help your people grow, and you can have a great dealership too. Thanks, everybody.
This has been Mind Your Own Business with Jonathan Dawson.